Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm gonna be giving you part 2 of What If Naruto was the same age as Itachi. Remember to give this one to 300 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in social media platform, and also stay in tune for a brand new episode of What If Naruto was taken and fused with Zetsu over an Anime King 2 later on. And I'm gonna be posting a new episode of What If Naruto was the greatest puppeteer on this channel, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. And yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So to do a bit of a recap from the last part, as Naruto was born earlier, and he was waiting on his baby sister to be born. Yes, Kushina was pregnant again. As Naruto had a wonderful life, his father was there. Minato was currently Hokage, and everything was just wonderful, as Minato was teaching Naruto. As Naruto will be joining the academy very soon. Days passed as Naruto was training with his father as Kushina came out. It was time. So Minato told Naruto to stay at the house, and they will be back soon with his baby sister, as Naruto agreed. So with that, Minato, Kushina, and Sarutobi's wife headed off. Naruto had fallen asleep, but he was awoken by screams. As he turned to see the village on fire, he was shocked, he was confused as hell. What was going on? As he made his way, he saw the giant nine-tailed fox staring at him. He ran. The only thing that a child could do at that moment, he ran straight upstairs into his parents' room as he hid under the sheets. As Minato flashed into the house, Naruto asked him what is going on and where is his little sister. As a tear came from Minato's eye as Naruto spoke, as he told Naruto to be strong for him. He took Naruto with him as Naruto arrived to see the fox all chained up by his mother. As Minato summoned the altar behind him, as he placed Naruto down as Kushina started to comfort him. As she looked rather exhausted, as she held on to him, Naruto felt a burning sensation, something entering his stomach as he saw his father, a seal appearing on his stomach. Something then happened as the fox lashed out, but when he opened back his eyes, he saw a claw. As his mother had stopped it with her body, she collapsed there, not before saying that she loved him, as she died. As Naruto was shocked, confused, as Minato came over, he wrapped his son up in his cloak, as the power of the fox was sealed inside of him, as he told Naruto to be brave for him, and they will always love him. As he died, as Hiruzen arrived, as Naruto passed out. Time passed after that as Naruto went to their funerals, as Hiruzen was there for the boy though, making sure that he was okay. But he had to be brave just like what his father said, as Naruto went to the academy. People heard his name as Naruto didn't want any special treatment. He wanted to be treated like a real person, a normal ninja. As he met Anko. Anko was surprised that he was able to walk up the wall, so she followed him. He didn't know why, but he decided to teach her, as things were going great because after a long while he finally smiled, as he also met Itachi. He noticed that Anko was wearing the same clothes though, as it was time for him to go home, but she didn't want to go home as he asked her what was wrong. Seeing that she didn't want to go home, he asked her if she wanted to come over to his place, as he brought her over and cooked ramen for her. He even told her she could stay the night as she was delighted as she stayed the night there. The next morning breakfast was ready for her, as she felt wonderful. She lived in the orphanage, she told him. The other students there, they were always bullying her. And one guy named Aoi, he showed her how to fight. So when she started to fight back, they got scared. Well, they started to verbally abuse her and bully her in other ways now, by cursing at her every moment and start to play these silly little pranks on her just to mess with her. She didn't want to take Naruto kindness to gratitude, so she didn't stay the other day, as she told him that it was fine. As Naruto went over, as he went to spar with Shisui and Itachi, he also met the head of the Uchiha clan, Fugaku Uchiha. So yeah guys, that was basically let's put if you guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. And yeah, let's begin this new episode. Naruto wasn't quite sure when Anko moved into his house. She would occasionally come over to stay the night to get away from the orphanage, as Naruto told her that she was always welcome. Then after a few weeks when she realized Naruto did not mind that she was staying there, she started to come more often, as she started to keep things in the guest room, scrolls, books from the academy, and even a few clothes. Then one day when they were eating breakfast in the kitchen, the both of them realized that Anko hadn't been back to the orphanage in 2 weeks now. Everything she owned was now in Naruto's guest room, was by now hers. But Naruto didn't really mind. It was like having a roommate. He gave her a place to stay where she wouldn't be mistreated, ignored, abused, and in return, she brought back some noise in his life that had left him when his parents died. It only helped that the two of them became good friends, even more than before. But theirs wasn't the only bond formed. In those months, Naruto would repeatedly go over towards the Uchiha compound and train Itachi or Shisui. On occasion, the two of them would come over there to Namikaze estate, neither of them mentioning that Anko was living with him. They two became friends. Seeing that Naruto and Shisui and Itachi became good friends, by proxy, Anko became friends with them as well, as they also help her train as well. Nowadays, Naruto would find himself hanging out with Anko, Shisui, or Itachi, or training with both Itachi and Shisui, or Anko. What had started out as a method to help them train and find each other's weakness has started to become a rivalry. It was all good sport though. Outside of the academy, they were good friends. As Naruto tried to introduce the two Uchiha to ramen, but only Anko took to it the way he did. Anything Naruto cooked for her, she found rather delicious though. But she was the ungrateful, lazy tenant. She pitched in because she didn't want to feel like she was taking advantage of him. As she grew up in a place where she had to do things on her own, so she properly washed her own clothes and even cooked meals for Naruto sometime. The first time she cooked though, Naruto was violently sick that night. He didn't even think that was a possibility because he had a fox seal inside of him. But suddenly, she did it. Over the time, living together, Naruto taught her how to cook in the same way that his mother showed him. Eventually, her dishes were not that bad anymore, but both agreed it was better when Naruto cooked. Their training also kept them busy, as their skills were growing in leaps and bounds every day. Sometimes Anko would feel a bit distant from him though. He really was a genius like his father, as he was so bright, so far ahead of her, compared to her, yes. He was like on a different level already. But compared to the rest of the class, he was a 4th ranked student behind Shisui, as Itachi and Naruto always switched place, 1st place and 2nd place. But Naruto was always mostly on top. She found her own rivalry with the brown hair in Zaka, Hana. She found out her name. They would be mock enemies in class, always competing against one another, with Anko coming out on top. It did push the Hana girl to train harder though, but she still wasn't anywhere near Itachi, Shisui, and Naruto. Over time, Naruto opened up more of his emotions, slowly breaking down the wall that he brought up when his parents died. He shared more with Anko and eventually Itachi and Shisui as well. He still hadn't told anyone about the burden that he carried, but eventually he would. But he just hoped that they didn't think different of him because of it. Anko shared more and more about her experience growing up in the orphanage and her brief time with Aoi. They were happy as a group and they stayed that way through the year. Eventually though they were comfortable, the situation was broken by a knock on the door. Naruto and Anko were at the back of the house training, as usual, seeing that they just got back from the academy. As Naruto stopped her as he heard the door, as he jogged through the house as he made his way to the front door. As he opened to see the Hokage standing there, smiling down at the young red head. He hadn't seen Hiruzen since a memorial service or almost 6 months earlier, or at least they haven't spoken. "Hello Naruto, I thought I might come by and see how you were getting along," Hiruzen said gently. Naruto stepped aside and allowed the man to enter, which he did. Hiruzen smiled as he gazed around the house, having visited a few times, as it was well kept. Even though a few articles of clothing were across furnitures, well, those weren't Naruto's. It at least told him that the boy didn't went into any kind of depression over his parents' death like he had feared. He was also happy that Naruto was at top of his class, but sometimes he shared that space with the Uchiha heir. Well, it was to be expected from Minato's son. That told me he hadn't neglected his training at all, and he got reports of Naruto visiting the Uchiha compound and making friends there. In all, Hiruzen was happy. He was really busy in the past few months dealing with the aftermath of the attack, So that is why he wasn't able to visit Naruto. But he was happy that Naruto's okay. But he didn't expect to see a young purple girl walking from the back. She looked at the Hokage, well, curiously, before a surprise look came on her face. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow as he scanned the house once again, as he noticed there was feminine clothes around. He turned back to Naruto, but Naruto walked past him, as he smiled to Anko and went to the kitchen to prepare some tea. That is what his mother told him when entertaining guests. "Hello, Anko, is it?" he said, as he made a note to know almost every face in the village, as she was no exception. Anko nodded quickly and respectfully. Some of Naruto's polite personality might rub off on her. "It's good to see you." Anko smiled nervously. She never spoke to Hokage before, even when the fourth was alive. "And you, Hokage-sama," she said. Hiruzen waved a hand dismissing the formal suffix. After he retired, he hoped he would get rid of it, and a certain amount of paperwork as well. "Please, child, no need for the pleasantries. I am no more important to this village than anyone else." Anko nodded slowly, well, not believing the statement, as they walked into the kitchen. As Hiruzen saw Naruto already laying out 3 cups of tea, smiling at them. "Very kind of you, Naruto." Naruto nodded as Hiruzen sat down at the table. "May I ask, why you are visiting Hokage-sama?" Hiruzen sighed. He knew that it was a losing battle to get Naruto to treat him with anything else but the utmost politeness, because his father was exactly the same even when he was Hokage himself. "I just thought I would come and see how you're getting along with your studies, your friends, and alike." As he said friends, he glanced over to Anko's direction, watching the girl as she sipped her tea like it was the most normal situation in the world. Naruto smiled as he settled down in his chair, his defenses had came down because of the situation with Anko. He was smiling a lot more these days. "Please, Hokage-sama, you have records of all progress updates monthly. If you want to know, you could simply just flip through my file." The Hokage nodded, a smirk of his own. Naruto was sharp, just like his father, but with a hint of cheekiness he got from his mother. "But it's nothing like hearing from the source." Naruto nodded, as he understand that. "I guess I have been keeping up with the training schedule my father had planned for me, while also staying ahead of my studies. As you probably know, I'm top of the class along with my friend Itachi." Hiruzen nodded, indeed known it beforehand. "Tell me, how did that happen? I knew that your mother was well acquainted with Mikado Uchiha before you started the academy, but I thought that you had limited interaction with them at best." Naruto nodded. In fact, he had limited interaction with children his age period. He approached me at lunch on our second date with a lunch prepared by his mother. We talked and became friends. We trained together ever so often too. I think he sees me as a rival. I see him the same way. Hiruzen smiles as he sipped his tea. A rivalry always helps students progress even more, so long as it doesn't get out of hand. "Very good, and I assume that you met Shisui through him." Naruto shook his head no with a smirk. It felt good to have information the Hokage did not. "No, we became friends after the first sparring session at the academy. He likes a partner that can keep him on his toes, but doesn't have the same style of fighting as him." The Hokage nodded, as Naruto was so, well, the way he talked, it was just like a grown adult. Nowhere near a 6-year-old, bordering a 7-year-old. Finally, he turned his gaze to Anko, as she was sipping her tea, staying out of the conversation. "And how did you two meet?" asked Hiruzen. Naruto chuckled as Anko smiled sweetly, as she explained about her arrival at the academy, and seeing Naruto climb up the building. If Hiruzen was surprised by Naruto's chakra control, he didn't show it. But a pain went off in his heart when he heard about their living situation. As much as he understood that it made the both of them life better, he had to be the adult in this situation. "Naruto, as much as it pained me to say this after hearing how friendly you and Anko have become, Anko cannot continue to live with you." Both of them looked up at him in shock and disbelief, Anko especially. She didn't want to leave. For the first time in her life since she was little, she was happy, and it was all thanks to Naruto. As Naruto was also distressed about this turn of events. What? Why? Hiruzen sighed. Arguments with children, especially those as mature and stubborn as Naruto, was rather difficult. "Naruto, she's in the legal care of the orphanage. That's her home." Anko huffed at that as she crossed her arms across her chest. "That place would never be my home." Hiruzen sighed again, trying to get the right meaning across. "While you may think that way, it's still the orphanage obligation to care for you. And by living here, you make that impossible for them." Anko just grew more irritated hearing that. "So what?" she said. "I've been living with Naruto for 3 months now, and the orphanage, they did nothing. They're probably glad I'm gone." Hiruzen frowned at that. He should have been contacted if a child went missing from the orphanage. "Come on, Hokage-sama. It's not like we're hurting anybody. If anything, everybody's happier this way. This house is too big for me anyway, and I don't mind having Anko living here." And from what she tell me, her experience in the orphanage wasn't ideal. She's safer here, and with us trained together she's improving. At the academy as well. Hiruzen's sigh, it was just like talking to Minato and Kushina. I can see the benefits, Naruto, but there's a reason there's protocol and system in place. If Anko experience is less than ideal, there are people that she can go to. As he turned and addressed Anko directly. Those people does not include. It doesn't matter how much you confide in them, your academy students. Anko just shrink in her chair under his gaze. But Naruto didn't really feel like giving up on this though. Well, isn't there some way she could come here and live properly then? As Anko looked up at Naruto. Before now, both of them just accept the living situation without really discussing it or saying anything about it. This was the first time any of them admit to want it like this, and it made her feel a bit warmer inside that Naruto wanted her here. As Hiruzen-san placed a hand to his forehead. Until Anko become a fully fledged adult, or she has a legal guardian, she's under the system. Well then, how can I be made your guardian, said Naruto. Hiruzen looked up, genuinely surprised that Naruto was fighting so hard for this. He didn't know if it was affection for Anko or it was just his stubborn Uzumaki genes. You need to be an adult to be someone's guardian, Naruto. A smile came on Naruto's face, making Hiruzen confused. Well then, as soon as I become a shinobi, I'm eligible, right? If I pass Genin exam this year, I can be made Anko's guardian and she can stay with me. As Hiruzen knew that he was shocked. As he nodded slowly, Naruto was right after all. Then just you watch, said Naruto. I'll pass the exam. Hiruzen stood up as he turned, a big smile on his face. He was actually proud of the boy, the way he dealt with the whole situation. Very well, in the meantime, it wouldn't be too bad to let Anko stay with you. Call that trial run for when you were going to adopt her. Naruto was a bit shocked, but he was happy. The old man was going along with it as he followed him to the door. But be warned, if you don't pass Genin exams, Anko will have to return to the orphanage. Naruto nodded with determination as Hokage left. As he came back to the kitchen as he saw Anko just staring at him with a mix of awe and gratitude. Why did you fight so hard for me? I mean, why go out of your way just for me? It's not like I would be disappearing. And aren't I just a lot of trouble, she said. As Naruto walked over and hugged her. As he then moved back his hands on her shoulder. You're my friend, and you want to stay, right? He then started to walk back towards the training ground. Plus, it would be way too quiet around here if you left. As she smiled until she got the utter meaning of his words. Hey, she said. Time skip, the months passed quickly after that as Naruto threw himself into a regimen of training. He never forgot Anko though, making sure he always has time for his friends, even in his busy schedule. He mainly focused on chakra control though, using every trick in the book for one technique, the clone technique. It was supposed to be the most simplest jutsu in the arsenal, requiring this small amount of chakra to form. But with the fox wiping his chakra control pathways every day, it became difficult and even more difficult to do. Eventually, he had too much chakra capacity and he couldn't lower it to the point of doing the simple clone jutsu. He overloaded them with too much chakra and they came out looking sickly. No matter how much chakra control he used, he still couldn't do it. He couldn't produce that small amount of chakra. As he sighed, knowing that genjutsu was going to be difficult as well. Surprisingly, it was Anko who gave him a solution. She was watching him train as she came up with the idea. She told him that he should just use a large amount of chakra and mold it, and produce many clones instead of one. As Naruto stood there shocked, asking if it was still Anko he was talking to, as he received several punches for that. After that, he forced the chakra out and molded his chakra together, as Naruto created 20 clones around him. As he jumped in victory, as he mastered every basic jutsu you need to pass the exam. After that, the rest of the academy year flew by. They all waited through the last day, as the teacher went on some boring speech and all that, saying that they were the best class that he taught. He asked if there were any students thought they could take the Genin test now. Surprisingly, 3 people raised their hand: Naruto, Itachi, and Shisui. As Naruto turned and looked at Anko, he was surprised. Her arm was not raised. She smiled at him sadly as she looked on the decks as she fiddled with her hands. I never could quite get the hinge down. I just don't think I am ready yet, she said. Naruto's eyes softened in understanding before they hardened once again. As the teacher took them for their evaluation, as he gave Anko a smile, she smirked back at him and gave him a thumbs up to do his best. Anko waited behind after class. As she was sitting on a swing, she saw Itachi and Shisui emerge. Both of them have their headbands. They smiled at her and waved before they ran off to tell their parents. She then saw Naruto exit. His face was just neutral. As she rushed over, in a flash. So did you do it, she asked. She wasn't sure why she asked. She knew that he did it. He was the greatest after all. He smirked as he pulled the headband from behind him. Of course. Anko quickly scooped him up in a tight hug as he hugged her back with a smile. As she grabbed his hand after breaking the hug, come on, we need to go celebrate. As Naruto tied his headband around his arm, he felt like he achieved the first part of his goal, to surpass his father and make his parents proud. Up on the roof of the academy, two figures watched this. One of them the calculating look, and the other one the smirk. Interesting crop this year, huh? Orochimaru turned towards his teammate with an interesting expression. Are you saying that because of your godson? Jiraiya just smiled at Anko, pulling Naruto away with her. How can it not be? Youngest to graduate the academy since the boy my student trained, Kakashi. Even then, it was only because of the war. Orochimaru just nodded, along with his teammate observing the young girl. Yes, interesting crop, indeed. Time skip. Naruto arrived at training ground the next day, as he found out he could not get drunk. Yes, Anko tried it yesterday. She took full advantage of the fact that he was legally adult. With that headband he had, he could buy liquor. As Anko had drank some of it, and it knocked her out completely, as he left her behind sleeping. He also liked the taste, but it couldn't get him drunk at all. He greeted Itachi and Shisui. They too had come early in order to meet their Jonin sensei. They were surprised as a man suddenly melted out of the shadows of a nearby tree. He was roughly 30 years old, with his dark hair tied back in a ponytail. His eyes had black markings around them, making him look quite tired, and he had a beard on his chin, as he wore the standard Jonin outfit, in darker colors though. And he was pretty laid back, looking like most Naruto members. Great, I finally take on Genin's squad, and they send me a bunch of kids. How bothersome. He didn't pay attention to the tape mark that appeared over Naruto's head, and the annoyed expression on Shisui's face. Itachi was calm, but inside he was slightly ticked off by the situation. I am Ensui Nara, your Jonin. Instructor, if you pass my test. Naruto was surprised there was another test, but he said nothing, allowing the Naruto to explain. You're here because you might have passed what you thought was a genuine exam, but I can send you back to the academy if you don't have what it takes to be on a squad. It's all really quite bothersome, but I'm overdue to have a team, and you three were all that I was left with. Again, he got the same responses. Naruto get annoyed. Shisui getting a bit angry by that, but not really showing it as much. And Itachi, well, he was being Itachi. Basically, if you want to be a Genin, you have to land a hit on... The man couldn't get to finish a sentence. Naruto launched himself at him. He had to duck, as Naruto came spinning back at him again with a kick. The boy's speed was impressive for a kid straight out of the academy. They were 7, right? They were above average for a Chunin. It made him wonder how hard this kid trained. As Naruto leaped out of the way, Shisui was behind him, his hand already in Tiger Seal. And so he didn't even have a moment to think as he had to jump out of the way, dodging a huge fireball. Unfortunately, that put him straight in the path of Itachi, Sharingan blazing. As he quickly tried to intercept the man, but Ensui batted the boy away, as he crouched on his hands in the right seal. Before any of them could do anything, they were stuck. As they looked down, their shadows were all connected to their sensei. Bothersome. At least you all have decent teamwork. However, like I was saying, you need to land a hit on me. As he pulled out a stop clock from his pocket, as they copied the action even though they didn't have one. In 1 hour, if you do that, then you're officially Genin enough to leave. And with that, he melted into the shadows, disappearing before the theory was released from his shadow possession technique. They just stood there a moment, getting their bearings in as they regroup, as they nodded at each other, already knowing what to do, as they took off into the forest. None of them were really particular trackers, but Naruto's ears were at the point where you could tell the difference between human footsteps and animals. Using that, he took the lead, listening for any signs of their sensei. Shisui took the lead as he had the most powerful ability in his arsenal, as he was able to use a larger fireball than Itachi. As Itachi took up the rear, using his Sharingan to make sure they didn't miss anything. Eventually, Naruto caught on to something as he raised his hand, stopping the group as he looked at Itachi, who nodded. As Itachi's Sharingan picked up the main details, they quickly formulated a plan. They slowly approached a clearing where they're sure their sensei was hiding in. Shisui dashed forward as he stood in a high branch, looking down the clearing as he started to mold his chakra. Ensui hid behind a tree in the clearing, hoping the kids weren't good enough chakra to find him. That way he wouldn't have to take them as a team, and he could just go sit down and take some missions when it was necessary. But that wasn't going to be the case. His eyes widened as he forced chakra into his feet. He leaped just in time to avoid the massive fireball that incinerated the trees that he was hiding behind. As he blinked before he had to twist his head dodging a fist that nearly hit him right in the face. As he swung on his heel, staring into one Tomo, Sharingan of Itachi, as Itachi narrowed his eye. His attacks came fast, and his counterattacks came faster. But Itachi was still a Genin, and Insui was an experienced Jonin. As Shisui then jumped in the fray, as they started to cover up each other's weaknesses and blind spots. As Insui was forced back in the clearance, even though none of them had actually touched him yet. They were working in perfect sync, like they know each other's movements before they even make it. He was so preoccupied with fighting the two of them, and preventing them from landing a blow on him, he forgot about the last person of the group. He could only look up in time to see Naruto dropping down from a branch, his fist caught back for a blow. Insui grabbed Shisui and threw him up at Naruto, using the boy lack of the Sharingan yet. But it looked like they had planned this all along, as Shisui lashed out his hand towards Naruto, and grabbed Naruto and thrust him down, adding to Naruto's already descending speed. Already caught off guard, and not bothering trying to use any substitution or anything, Naruto nicked him right on the shoulder. As Insui then spun around, expecting another attack, but the three of them stood there with a smirk on their face. Alright, he said. I'll give that you three are impressed the blind hit on me. He then became very serious. You three are now Genin of the Leaf, fully fledged shinobi, and legal adults. And as now you're expected to behave as such. You will report to the same training ground tomorrow at 10 for missions. But now you have the rest of the day off. He then relaxed again, as his posture then slumped down like a Nara. Congratulations. Even if it's incredibly bothersome, he said. The three of them just smiled. Time skip, Itachi walked in Naruto's home to see an unusual sight, as Naruto was on the couch reading a scroll. That was normal enough, but Anko was behind him as she was on a footstool, running her hand through his hair. Itachi just watched as Anko kept running her hand through his hair, as his hair was really breaking the laws of physics. Every time she would just move it through it, it would just get back spiky. How the hell does it do that, Anko said, as Itachi managed a smirk. Hey, Itachi said Naruto. Anko fell back off the stool in surprise as she looked up at the Uchiha. Damn, do you always have to be so quiet, she said. Itachi just shrugged. He was a ninja. Weren't they supposed to be quiet? As Naruto chuckled as he ran his hand through his hair to see if Anko has deserved it much. They have been happily living together for over 6 months now, officially anyway, with Naruto as Anko, legal guardian. They thought it would be strange if she started calling him dad, and they didn't feel like siblings, so they just left the situation how it was. It's time for our mission. Insui Sensei said he had something special planned for us today. Naruto grinned as he got up, as he shrugged on his tracksuit sandal and jacket. See you guys later. Both of them waved to Anko as they left. As they made their way to the Hokage's tower, damn, I wish Insui Sensei would just teach us the Sunshin. It made life a whole lot better. Itachi just groaned as he picked up the pace, as Naruto looked at him strangely. Please don't mention that you're on Shisui. Ever since he saw Sensei perform the technique, it's all that he talks about. I swear, when he learns that jutsu, I would see someone happier than when Anko cooked you ramen for your birthday. Naruto looked a bit offended by that, but he then chuckled. That was a very good day for him and Anko cooked him ramen. Please, like that could ever happen. Itachi just shrugged, but he had the image of Shisui literally bounced around the village in joy if he learned the Sunshin. As they reached Hokage's tower, where they met up with a boy Shisui who was waiting for them. He smiled upon seeing them as they walked in the office where they greeted Insui Sensei and the Hokage. A triple call of Hokage-sama before followed by a polite bow to their sensei. So, Insui Sensei, you said you had a surprise for us. The man just nodded slowly. Yes, I've been talking with the Hokage about your past missions, records, and I've negotiated you three go on a B-rank mission. The two of them gaped in shock except for Itachi, as he was surprised on the inside though. As Shisui and Naruto high-five one another, the Hokage and Insui sweat drop at the action. But they bow. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Insui Sensei. They might act slightly immature at times, but looking over their records, they were indeed qualified. Their missions have gone without a hit so far, even with the more dangerous C rank they have been assigned. Each of them could be called a prodigy in their own right, and that includes Shisui, who hadn't even unlocked his Sharingan yet. Imagine when he does. Alright you guys, meet me at the gates in 15 minutes. Make sure you pack for a long trip, we don't know how long this will take. After getting a nod from his students, Insui vanished in his shadow Sunshin, making Shisui drool. Itachi saw this and started to drag his cousin away so they could pack for their trip. As Naruto was about to leave, but he was stopped by Hiruzen. Naruto, hold on a moment, as he looked to see concern in the old man features. Be careful out there. Of course, Hokage-sama, he said. And with that he quietly left. As soon as he left, Sarutobi sank back in his chair. As he looked back over the picture at Minato, the blonde face staring right back at him. He shook his head as he returned to the stack of the paperwork on his desk. Thanks to your sensei laziness, it only took about half an hour before they left the village, but they were used to it by now. It's been 6 months. As they were thinking about their fantasies of how a B-rank mission might play out. As the three of them were backpack free, Shisui started to tell them about being prepared, but Naruto told them that he gave them all sword scrolls that was placed across their body. As Shisui just went back to keeping watch over the road. Time skip, and Yoshino won't stop about her little son Shikamaru. It's really bothersome, I tell you. The man didn't stop, as he narrowed his eyes all around, stopping his conversation with Shisui. But his face returned back to neutral. What is it, sensei? Said Shisui. Nothing. I just thought he was cut off as a kunai, shot out from a tree line, but Naruto was already on it, as he caught the knife mid-air and threw it back where it came from, as there was a thud in the forest. The group rushed over to investigate and found a man lying still in his own blood. Shisui flipped the man over with his foot as a kunai was sticking in his chest, right where his heart was. As Shisui looked him over, he had on a stone headband and the rest of his chunin attire. That made Shisui grimace as he looked around. Not many chunin were stupid enough to take on a full squad, especially with a jonin. He expected there might be more of them, so he quickly ordered his team back to the road. Good work, Naruto, he said. As Naruto nodded, he didn't really enjoy the thought that he killed somebody. Morbid thoughts bubbling to the surface. I think now might be a good time to explain the mission, sensei. As he shook his head as he carried walking on. Not until we're somewhere ashore, we won't be spied upon. All of them nodded as they picked up their pace towards the next village. None of them saw the tune that they left dead out there in the forest, melted into a pile of mud. Soon after, a much larger man dropped down the forest, noticing the mud clone as he smirked, before going after the squad. Time skip. Alright, sensei. I think we should know the mission details now. Shisui did a scan of the hotel room to make sure they won't be listening on. As he nodded. Right. We were sent out to protect a wealthy client, a businessman by the name of Gato. He's beginning to set up business in this era of fire country, and he started to get harassed by other businessmen in the country. Naruto frowned at that as he sat down in the bed. That sounded more like a C rank to me. Shisui nodded as he took a seat. Normally you will be right, but the threats have been getting more serious, with even shinobi's to mention. Gato paid for a B rank, so that is what it is. Itachi simply nodded to himself from where he was. I see, so this is really a C rank mission, but you wish to add to our records for an easy B rank. As Shisui smirked. Easy to figure out then. How bothersome. Shisui and Naruto just smiled that the mission wouldn't be so hard as they thought it would be. Even though it was still going to be a B rank, recently Naruto has been feeling a bit hollow with the spars that he went through with the Uchihas. Yes, Itachi could keep him on his toe, but it wasn't anything dangerous. He wanted to feel that sense of battle. He wanted to fight, to see and test his true skills to see where he was. Hey sensei, do you mind if we go out and train for a bit? Shisui nodded as he sat down in the chair, as he pulled a scroll to read through. Sure. Just be back before dinner. As Naruto nodded at Itachi, who nodded in reply. Quickly, the three Genin left the room. Shisui lagging behind just a bit. But when he came out into the hall, he saw his teammates weren't there. He was confused as his body started to tense up. He made his way. As he went outside, there was a forest nearby. As he was about to call out their names, but suddenly, he had to dodge a kunai. As he ducked into a roll and quickly got to his feet, looking around, he turned to the sound of clapping, only to watch a man jump from a tree line. He was a little taller, as he was wearing the chunin uniform with brown hair that was all messed up, with a stone headband. Impressive Konoha scum. I don't usually miss my targets. Shisui reached for his pouch, but he left it in the room. The stone ninja grinned as he rushed forward at incredible speed. Shisui could only blink in surprise. He was near 1 minute, and the next he was in front of him. Reacting on instincts, he diverted the punch away from him and lashed out with his own. But the man spun around like it was nothing and cracked him right in the back. That sent him sailing forward. Shisui tried to turn and face the attacker again, but he got a chop to the neck. The last thing he felt before being knocked out was his leg being picked up and his body being dragged towards the forest. Time skip. Interesting. I thought your friends would be the first week. They put up a better fight after all. As Shisui blinked, as he started to regain consciousness. As he came face to face with the man that attacked him, he tried to move but his hands were tied and was his feet. What are you talking about? The man simply narrowed his eyes over to the left and the right. As Shisui looked and saw, Naruto and Itachi were tied up to him, both unconscious. What do you want with us? The man laughed as he pulled a kunai out, picking his nail with it. What else? I'm from the stone, you're from Konoha. I want you to pay for everything you did to us in the third Shinobi War. Shisui's eyes opened wider as he struggling the bindings. What are you talking about? The stone started the war, says Shisui. The man kicked Shisui right in his stomach. Filthy propaganda. It was your Hokage who declared the war in the first place. Our Tishikage was merely defending our territories. He smirked evilly as he crouched on in front of the boy. And now you will die for it, as he brought the kunai down. Coward! The kunai halted in mid-air. What did you say? Shisui just chuckled, not really seeing much to do now since he was sure that he was going to die. I called you a coward, killing your enemy when his defenses tied up and unable to fight. The man smiled as he twirled the kunai into a reverse grip. We're shinobi kid, lying, stealing, and all that is what we do. As he brought the kunai down, Shisui closed his eyes, but he felt no pain as he felt the nods loosen. As he slowly opened back his eyes, he jumped to his feet looking at the man who was twirling the kunai around. Fine kid, I was going to make your death quick, but if you want to go down swinging, I guess I'll enjoy this even more. Shisui knew that he should find a way to get away with his friends, but he felt a burning anger inside of him towards this man who insulted his home and his friends. He rushed forward, but the man simply sidestepped him. But Shisui was not done yet as he spun around. But the man dodged and sliced Shisui down the back, making it look like a dance as he was twirling around Shisui like it was nothing. Shisui refused to cry out as he dashed forward once more, but the man backhanded him away right in the face. Right now he felt like the man was just playing with him, as the man was going around him with grace and speed. Eventually the man get bored and kicked Shisui in the gut, launching him through the forest. He groaned as the man walked closer, spinning the kunai in his finger. Shisui only looked up in pure anger, unable to dodge or move his body to get up. The man raised his kunai up in the air. As he brought it down, Shisui realized something. He was going to die. The exciting fear of agony pulsed through his veins, making his numb body come alive. He didn't want to leave his family or his friends. There was still so much he wanted to do. As he wanted to learn the Sunshine, he wanted to beat Naruto in a spar. As he was watching, the kunai simply slowed down as it came through the air, but he was unable to react just in time to stop it. He closed his eyes as he waited for the finishing blow, hoping that it would be painless and quick, but nothing happened. Did it work? A voice said. Shisui slowly cracked his eyes open. Instead of seeing this stone ninja, he saw red hair next to black hair. I don't know. He has his eyes closed. Shisui opened his eyes to see Naruto and Itachi, looking at him curiously. When he finally opened his eyes fully, the both of them smiled. Naruto, Itachi, what happened? Where's the stone ninja? Itachi shrugged as he leaned against a tree. After Naruto looked a bit embarrassed. There never was a stone ninja. Shisui was confused as he got to his feet despite his aching muscles. What do you mean I was fighting him, and he had you two knocked out? Asked Naruto chuckled nervously as Itachi smirked. That was, well, funny, thinking that one chunin could knock the both of them out. Yeah, that was a genjutsu. The person you were fighting was me. Shisui's eyes looked at the both of them as anger settled over his features. What the hell, he said, as Naruto undid his headband. As Naruto handed it to him. What is this for? Just look. As Shisui looked down, he was surprised what he saw. Staring back at him was a pair of Totomo Sharingan. Whoa, I have the Sharingan. As Naruto smiled, and so did Itachi. But his head snapped back up as he lashed out at Naruto. But Naruto jumped back just in time. But he saw Naruto's moving much slower. It was still too fast for him to counter, but it was much better. As his eyes gleamed, he could finally fight on par with the both of them. Congratulations. As he turned towards Itachi, as Itachi had done a small smile. You guys did this just so I could unlock my Sharingan. As the both of them nodded, as he winced as he felt his ribs. One of them were probably broken. Yeah, we figure it was about time you caught up. They all laughed as they made their way back to the forest. As they went through it and made their way to the hotel. So that was a genjutsu. It felt so real. Itachi nodded as he was also feeling a bit winded for maintaining the powerful genjutsu over Naruto for so long. I can tell you more about it when I start to train you in your Sharingan. Shisui looked at Itachi. By that statement, I did Itachi clarify. Until you can have your own family train you, he said. Shisui nodded as he winced, as he held his side painfully. Did you have to go so hard, Naruto, he asked. Naruto placed an arm over his shoulder, helping him. Itachi told me I had to make it as threatening as possible, so you really believe he was alive. Threatening position. Shisui nodded as he glared at Itachi. The rest of the way back, Shisui tried out his new dojutsu, as he released it and activated. They made it back to the room, as he saw Insui. As he was going through a scroll, he looked up and noticed Shisui's eyes. Oh, so it worked then. How bothersome. Shisui's eye twitched. You knew about this? Insui sighed as he nodded as he returned to his scroll. Of course. I was the one who suggested it, he said. As Shisui's eye twitched again, He would have launched himself at his sensei if he sighed in a flaring pain. As Ensui looked up with a sigh. So bothersome. Did you have to hurt him so badly? Now I have to get on my old aching knees and heal him. Naruto simply shrugged as he set his teammate down in a chair as he flopped down his own bed. As Ensui got up his hand, or the glowing green chakra, as he started to heal Shisui injuries. He wasn't an expert in medical ninjutsu, but as a Jonin, he had to know these things. As Shisui saw the chakra from technique flow into his body, resetting his ribs back into place. As he started to understand how the whole process worked, how the medical chakra vibrate at the frequency to speed up his own body healing. So this is what I've been missing out on. Well, not anymore, he said. The group picked up the pace the next day, as Itachi was explaining to Shisui about the Sharingan and the abilities. While Shisui had this conversation with his peers before, it took on a whole meaning now, because he actually had a bloodline. As Naruto listened in, fascinated as he heard Itachi talk about the Sharingan. As Itachi could only tell him what he knew so far, seeing that he didn't have the 3 totem Sharingan either, he couldn't really tell him everything. As Naruto heard about the ability to predict things, only his father was fast enough to make that ability completely useless. Because if you can't see what you're hitting, how will you? While a well-trained Sharingan user could follow Minato with their eyes, their body was not fast enough to really stop him. That was one reason why he was well respected by the clan, as Naruto thought one day he would be that fast. When Itachi finally matured to 3 Tomo, they would finally have the fight the both of them have been waiting for. He was brought out of his thoughts, as his eyes widened as he got a flicker, as he stopped on the branch, placing his body behind it, as 10 kunai sailed past. Some of them embedded themselves into the branch where he was. Similar things happened with Itachi and Shisui, but with their Sharingan they were able to see it in time. As Ensui melted away into his shadow, the kunai passing harmlessly overhead. As Naruto jumped back on his branch, a large, muscular man appeared. He wore black shinobi sandals and pants, and a stone headband, and a flap jacket but nothing else. His bulging, ripped upper body was clenching. He had many scars on his chest and arms, and black void eyes as he stared at them with bloodlust. When I agreed to an assassination mission against that Gato guy, I thought it would be boring. Then I see 2 Uchiha, and I think my luck is turning around. As he then turned towards Naruto, his grin even worse. Then I see the yellow flash bright, and I know that God is smiling on me. He pulled out 2 kunai and digged them into the earth. When he pulled them out, they were formed with rock, making 2 sharp swords. Naruto glanced around checking for their sensei, but he seemed to have disappeared. As he turned his attention back to his new opponent, it was a Jonin. As powerful as the 3 were together, they didn't stand much a chance against this man if he went full out. They simply have to hope that he underestimated them, but the look in his eyes said differently. Mase, Kodichi, the stone bowl of the hidden stone. It was Shisui talking, and Naruto wasn't surprised, considering that his friend had practically memorized the bingo book and any other ninjas that were famous from other nations. Well, what do you know? My reputation precedes me, the man said. As Naruto noticed a nervous look that Shisui had, that meant the man was powerful. Watch out for his swords, he can manipulate them into any weapon. Mase just looked irritated. Don't ruin the surprise, boy. He was cut off as Naruto dashed forward, trying to catch him off guard, but the man was ready. He backed Naruto away with the flat of his sword, sending Naruto into a tree. He then brought the blades together as they merged into a large shield, blocking the fireball that Shisui and Itachi sent his way. He chuckled as the swords morphed back, as they were curved this time. He used them to parry the kick that Naruto sent from him from behind. As Naruto tried to launch lightning fast strikes at the man, but he was parried every time. Seamlessly, without effort, the man started to exhaust them. As Naruto flipped back and took off the arm and legs bands that he was wearing since in form, he stretched a moment as he got the feels for his muscles after having them been weighed down for a while. Itachi and Shisui was more amazed when Naruto simply disappeared from the branch with pure speed. The only reason they were able to see him was because of the Sharingan, but even then he was still a blur. As he launched himself at Jonin, both of them thought the same thing. He's been holding back this entire time. As Mase was still blocking every of his attacks, but this time, he was actually trying. As Naruto backed off again. Well, at least this confirmed that you're really that bastard son. Only a Namikaze could move that fast at your age. As Naruto kept his face neutral, as he glanced over to Shisui and Itachi. Getting the message, both of them launched themselves forward, as Naruto joined in as well. As the man started to actually use more force against them. As he merged the swords together, as it turned into a larger one. With a sweeping blow, he managed to catch all 3 of them in one blow. All 3 found themselves enveloped with a stone collar around their neck. As they tried to move, it got tighter. Impressive for Genin, but that is what you are in the end, Genin. He was suddenly cut off, as dark black threads teared through his body, including his heart. He could only blink in surprise as stone colors fell off the boy's neck, as he fell down dead without a second thought. All three of them were left panting, as their sensei suddenly revealed himself. You three did very well, especially against an opponent of his status. Shisui glared at his sensei. Where were you, sensei? Ensui sighed as he poked the dead body with his foot to check if this was a clone or not. It was bothersome, so I thought I would let you guys handle it. But it turns out you need my help in the end after all. As Naruto and Itachi both frowned at that. Don't feel bad though. He was an opponent that even I might have trouble with if you three didn't provide the necessary distraction. You performed admirably, and consider this man was an A-rank Jonin. You last long was very impressive. The two still a little convinced, as Shisui just seemed angry that their sensei didn't do anything until the last moment, as Ensui sighed and motioned for them to come, mumbling under his breath but how bothersome it was to be a good teacher. Time skip. Both Shisui and Naruto had to suppress their laughter as they looked at the short business man in front of them. He was consumed in his conversation with Ensui sensei. When the man opened the door to his luxurious apartment, Naruto thought that it was mechanically open and the man was somewhere else, because he was looking right over Gato's head. And Gato noticed, as Shisui did the same thing. Since then, he had a grudge against the both of them, well minus Itachi, because Itachi simply disappeared in the background when laughter emerged. But even Shisui, the shortest of the both of them, even was taller than the man. But for the rest of the mission it was quite boring. It turns out after defeating the stone ninja, the harassment and the attacks, after Gato's head had just stopped, Shisui eager was swollen to the point of exploding when he think the assassins fear their team. Well, Itachi reminded that they could be waiting for them to leave so they could have better chances. No matter what the results were the same. They became bored. But Naruto got off a bit easy, had his scroll with him to write down anything he got. Even so, they squeezed in training, using the opportunities when they were guarding Gato. Itachi was impressed by the rate Shisui started to pick up the Sharingan techniques that he was showing him. Naruto hadn't had a chance to spar with Shisui yet, but when he did, he is going to remind the Uchiha that he isn't invincible by the way he was already acting. Quickly though, the time that they were assigned to the mission came and went, and they were back on the road. As Gato gave Naruto one disdained look before they headed off, because Naruto chuckled just a bit. I really hate that guy, said Naruto. You shouldn't say those things about the client. It's far too bothersome to deal with after the aftermath, Ensui said. He is not the client anymore, said Naruto. Ensui jumped up in the trees as the Genins followed. But he could be in the future, he said. Naruto just huffed, unable to deny the man's lazy logic, but he was still annoyed by it anyway. They checked for any ambush, but there were none. As he missed it, they had had that rush, and he wanted to feel it again. Shisui was running next to him, his Sharingan activated, as Itachi warned him that it would waste his chakra, but Naruto said that it would work as a chakra exercise in control, to try and see how long they could keep it active for and even push their limits. So Itachi did the same thing. As Naruto felt like they were getting an edge over him, he needed to get back to Konoha and start to train again. His speed and chakra control amongst the priorities. But he smirked as he sprinted off. He knew the exact jutsu that could help him with that. He had been putting off going through his other things for long enough. Time skip. Well, that was boring as hell. All he got was 2 nods from teammates. Surprising that Itachi actually agreed that it was boring. Yeah, I wonder if all mission reports are like that. Naruto simply shrugged. Honestly, he wasn't so sure what he was expecting. A smirk then crossed his face. Then again, it might have been worth it to see the look on the old man's face when Sensei told him that we face off against the Stone Bull. As Shisui laughed at that, even Itachi smirked. Sarutobi was shocked when he heard about that. Must you call Hokage-sama something so disrespectful? I would have thought your own father being Hokage would have made you respect the position. Naruto simply chuckled as they made their way down the streets. Enjoy being back after a few weeks. I have the highest respect for the position, but for me, respect for a person is earned, not given. Itachi raised an eyebrow at that, and is defending the village in the third and the second Shinobi War, and also helped defeating the Kyuubi, and his years of service to the village are not grown to respect. Naruto gave Itachi a look before walking faster. Itachi looked at Shisui, but he shrugged, not knowing why Naruto was so touched at the moment. Naruto, the leaf is our home, and Hokage-sama is our leader. Naruto turned towards Shisui swiftly, as they saw something in his eyes, anger, and a bit of betrayal. And where was you when my parents died? Where was you when I went to an empty home, when I knew I would never see them again? Shisui blinked in surprise. He took a step back, not expecting this outburst. A few civilians even stopped to look at them. Itachi went to put a hand on Naruto's shoulder, but Naruto shrugged off the contact. 6 months. It took him 6 months after the funeral for him to visit me. I mean, I know he's busy, but 6 months? Naruto simply turned and ran away, leaving the two Uchiha speechless. He made his way to the one place he could think clearly. As he halted the wall of his home in one bound, as he went to the training area, as he leaned up against the wall, as he looked down to himself in the small pond, as he dropped to his knees, as a single droplet rippled the small pond, as he wiped away the other tear that was about to fall, as he collapsed on his back, lost in his thoughts as he looked up in the sky. Time skip, time move on. As Naruto apologized to his friends, he knew he shouldn't have lashed out like that, but he was really bottling up his feelings lately. They of course forgave him after the thought, but their eyes got a bit open to Shisui. Naruto has always been a pillar of strength. Before he came along, Shisui was just the one, not Itachi but the other Uchiha. He held no resentment towards his cousin, but he was lonely when no one paid attention to anyone else but the prodigy. To see Naruto, someone that worked hard for what he want, without any dojutsu, Kekigenkai, it made him feel proud. It made him feel hope. He was the calm one, the one that kept his head, but still find time to enjoy his life. To see him lose like that, it cracked a piece of the image he saw of his friend, but it helped the relationship as well. He stopped seeing Naruto as a goal to strive to, but saw him as a normal person now, with emotions and limits, and their conversation got a bit better. For Itachi, him and Naruto called each other friends, but that was a loose term. They were sparring partners, rivals, people who used each other to improve each other. He never went over the top, never seen other purpose, as they just mostly trained. In a way, Itachi envied his cousin. Shisui and Naruto were friends, that much anyone could admit. When he witnessed how Naruto felt about being abandoned by the third, and perhaps by his parents, he realized that something needed to change. Over time that the three managed to get closer to each other, as Itachi started to act more as a friend, instead of an acquaintance. Shisui and Naruto were already close, spending time together. But afterwards, there was like family, as there was always a place set in Naruto's house for Shisui, and always a place set in Shisui's house for Naruto. They continued to do missions, always improving, always excelling. In the 6 months after that, both Shisui and Itachi reached the final stage of their Sharingan. This was the fastest growth and report since Madara Uchiha himself. Anko, well, she was Anko. If there was something Naruto could count on that would never change, it was her. When she heard the way he erupted at his friends, she forced him to go over and apologize now. Well, after squeezing to death about 5 minutes of course, it had led to an amusing conversation to who was a guardian in the relationship. Well, it didn't really end well for Naruto when she attacked him. With Naruto gone, Anko threw herself in her training as she became the top shinobi in her class. As Naruto was smiled when he heard that, but he teased her, having nothing to do when he was around. It was amusing because her face became red when she couldn't think of any other comeback. 6 months later, nothing changed. Anko was still flying through the academy, as Naruto was helping her whenever he wasn't on missions. It turned out after their first successful B-rank mission, it opened the floodgates. They even started to be requested by clients, but some of them were skeptical when they saw their age. But after seeing what they can do, in essence, everything was wonderful. And we now find Naruto sitting down. As he gazed towards the door, he was waiting for Anko to return. She passed her Genin exam a few days ago, the only one in her class that did that year. That worried Naruto, thinking that she might be placed in a group of Genin that were older because she didn't pass to anyone in her class. None of them else passed except for her, and they might belittle her because of her age, as he desperately wanted to know who she got. Well, there was other classes, so he would be glad if she ended up with other kids her age. But none of her classmates passed though. Well, most of them didn't take it. After all, the full year of the academy, the 4 years, weren't up yet. As the door then opened up, as a grinning Anko came inside, as she looked really happy, so I take it by her smile it went well. Anko skipped towards him, actually skipped. It made him take a double take. She wasn't really girly, so to see her act this way was weird. Better than well, it was awesome! As she flopped down on the couch. So, who did you get her to ask? A smug look came in her face. Oh, nobody. Just, Orochimaru the Sanin, she said. She said it with such nonchalance that it took a moment for her to register what she said. Wait, Orochimaru? As in the teammate of Jiraiya, the guy who trained my father. Anko nodded, as another smug look was on her face. But guys, be in subscribe right here. If you want the next part of this, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, thank you for the rest of the watches coming your way, and I hope you do enjoy each and every one of them. But what can I say guys, I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.